Hello, ladies, and welcome back to your favorite podcast, Knick Knack Book Talks. My name is Elliot Walker, and this week we will be discussing the topic of motivation literature. First things first, I'd like to introduce our panel.
Hi, my name is Katie Krause, and I will be analyzing The Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes.
Hello, I'm Natalie Busick, and I'll be speaking about When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Kalanithi.
Hi, I'm Amy Lutches, and I'll be breaking down the novel Resilience by Eric Greitens. So my first question for y'all is, why did each of you choose to analyze your respective novels?
Well, Elliot, I chose to study this novel because I was really intrigued by how disease affects the entire lives of their victims, so this was an easy choice for me in that respect.
I'm similar to Natalie in the sense that my decision was relatively easy. As I'm looking to pursue a possible career in the Navy SEALs, I was curious to read about the emotional journey of a SEAL veteran after deployment.
I chose my novel because I wanted to use it as a way to inspire myself to step out of my comfort zone and make new life choices, so it just made sense for me to read this book.
So going off of that, can each of you give me a brief summary about the logistics of your novels? I would like to know about the speaker, occasion, and purpose of the book if possible. The speaker of my novel is Eric Greitens, a former Navy SEAL who was deployed in Afghanistan during the war. The occasion that led him to writing this book was that one of his SEAL comrades was diagnosed with PTSD. The purpose of Greitens' writing was to help his friend adjust back to civilian life.
Wow, how bad was he struggling?
Well, the worst scenario I read about was when he was driving down the road and saw a plastic bag floating in the middle of the street, and he swerved to miss it because he thought it was an AED.
Wow.
Yeah, it was bad.
My book is definitely traumatic, but not to the extent that Amy's is. The speaker of my book is Paul Kalanithi, who was previously a neurosurgeon until he was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. He recorded his story during the last month of his life with the dream of always wanting to be a writer. His purpose is to discuss living a long life but being disabled versus living a short life with no disabilities at all. The story was truly moving.
Inspiring. And how about you, Katie?
The speaker of my book is Shonda Rhimes, creator of many popular TV shows, such as Grey's Anatomy. Rhimes actually wrote her book in order to please her family members, who were worried about how she was coping with her obesity. The purpose of her writing is to show people how they can change their lives simply by saying the word yes.
Do you ladies agree that your author was successful in conveying their purpose?
Yes, for me, she did a good job of acknowledging that failure is inevitable and encouraged her audience to eliminate negative self-talk. She utilizes anecdotes to get her point across effectively.
Similar to Katie's author, I would say Eric Greitens utilizes historical, literature, and personal anecdotes to successfully convey to his audience and his comrade that anything can be achieved with a little bit of resilience. Did you feel inspired after reading your book? Yeah, definitely. He was a very eloquent writer. And last but not least, how about you, Natalie?
Well, Paul Kalanithi began his message with a plethora of rhetorical questions concerning how to live life with a disease. He also used personal experiences to elaborate on his feelings about life and death.
Do you think it was effective?
Well, I was motivated, so I'm going to go with yes.
Bringing all these novels together, how do they relate to the topic of motivation? From what I hear, our books are all similar in that they employ the use of personal experiences in order to motivate their audiences. I, for one, was certainly motivated.
Adding on to Amy's point, I think all the novels are also related to bettering one's life.
I would say that even though the actual subjects of our books are very different, i.e. mine deals with medical issues, Katie deals with pop culture, and Amy's deals with military issues, they all convey a similar message about the same topic, and the topic is motivation.
I see. Do any of you ladies have any final remarks before we go?
I do. Even though this isn't a direct quote from my author, Shonda Rhimes did place it in her book. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "You must do things you think you cannot do."
For me, I just wanted to share my favorite quote from page 2, where it says, "Resilience is the virtue that enables people to move through hardship and become better. No one escapes pain, fear, and suffering. Yet from pain can come wisdom, from fear can come courage, from suffering can come strength, if we have the virtue of resilience."
And to close off this podcast, I would like to leave you all with the words that Paul Kalanithi left me with. How much neurological suffering would you let your child endure before saying that death is preferable? Because the brain mandates our experience of the world. Any neurological problem forces a patient and family, ideally with the doctor as a guide, to answer this question: what makes life meaningful enough to go on living?
Thank you for listening to Knick Knack Book Talks. Tune in next week to hear our discussion on the latest analysis of Susanna Cahalan's book, Brain on Fire. Thank you and good night.